Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for joining, Mathias. I guess this is our first physical interview since the lockdown. It's something that nobody predicted that could happen, but here we are in a beautiful place. So in the time of pandemic, clearly some of the things we are doing is through distance, which makes it harder to enjoy some of that relationship. And some of the technologies we've been discussing for some time is like VR, AR, and this for virtual experience, where you may not be able to go physically to this beautiful gallery, but you could experience it through distance. I think this kind of new experience one can do through virtual life could be accelerating in time like this. And I would love to hear your view about how Axel Springer is using digital technologies to enhance and address the what I call physical distance gap by virtually being able to get closer to where we will not be able to go in physical sense that we can do today.
Well, crises like a pandemic have always the potential to accelerate negative developments, but also to accelerate positive developments. In the case of the corona crisis, my biggest worry is that we may limit, reduce, or even lose certain elements of freedom, of individual rights, of data protection, and in a way, the beauty of the open society, that we tend to go more towards an authoritarian model. That's my biggest worry. My biggest hope is that our whole form of social interaction and professional interaction, the organization of workflows, and with that also the productivity, is going to benefit big times. And here virtual reality and artificial reality will play an instrumental role. I'm a strong believer in these developments for many years. I had conversations with Mark Zuckerberg 3 years ago, how and when direct and physical communication will be to a very large extent be replaced by virtual conversations. And we then already said most of the meetings that are happening in the world are not necessary as physical meetings where you need airplanes. If you have a conversation with virtual reality where you have a three-dimensional image of your counterpart, and the only thing that you're missing, I don't know, is a scent or is a personal feeling, then not everything can be replaced by that, but a lot can be replaced in a much more efficient, less costly and healthier way. And in that sense, I think the coronavirus and the new habits, we stop. I mean, in Europe, people hug and kiss each other when they meet. This is probably not going to come back again.
I guess you're going to do this now.
Yeah, that was my suggestion. I suggested to do this, which is for me the nicest way to say hello anyway, independent from the virus. But again, I think all these habits and behaviors will change. With the help of VR, we will be able to optimize our workflows and our conversation. And in a way, the experiences that we are making now are accelerating that process.
Well, actually, I think this is really case for all technologies, isn't it? Imagine Zoom. Actually, I was lucky to meet the founder of Zoom in 2011, Eric Yuan. He could not be able to raise money because they said, oh yeah, we got Skype, we got WebEx. Why do we need another video conferencing applications and tools? What I liked about Eric, and he's a phenomenal engineer, was he said, it's still not good enough for user experience. It's about experience. Yeah. And then he really hit me. He said, Young, I want to have that experience goes to, things like your mobile phones, so that I can be able to zoom it from the phone directly. I thought that was something that was, at the time, 2011, smartphone is still just becoming smarter. And that was a directional thing I really liked about him. I think that it was a direction of this, what I call making easy for consumers to connect using cloud and mobility to get your job done.
So what could be Samsung's contribution, or where is the opportunity for Samsung as a learning, as an opportunity that derives from the crisis?
Well, I think that the area that we are learning is actually we also have to change drastically. We must go even more accelerating in the direction of remote. Because Samsung is also a physical company like BMW or Daimler. We go to the plant, we have an office, and we work there. But fortunately, Samsung does also have a business that does infrastructure. So 5G. I think the 5G deployment is going to be even more critical going forward because all of these things will be connected. And having that access will be even more important no matter where you are at. So that you can have the real time and access that you need. I believe also we are investing in what we call the backbone of infrastructure, which is semiconductor. So as one of the largest semiconductor company, that's my background. Yeah, so we are involved in investing semiconductor components and technologies that can enable this whole cloud scalability, mobility, and edge devices that can be able to access information no matter where you are. So infrastructure, so critical technologies are where we are focusing on, and I think we have announced that we will invest $160 billion, and we are about halfway in already on that investment route. So for one company investing that is not a small scale, but that shows where we have to go. I believe where we need to go more is really the fact that our business is not a cloud business ready as much. So we need to do more of that in terms of our applications. We need to move more into the helping our workers to work in remote. Those things I think we can improve.
How confident are you that the world will be independent from China if it is about 5G infrastructure in the long term? Is there a possibility, or is it basically something that Huawei is dominating so much that we will all end up in the hands of Chinese infrastructure?
I think there is a geo fence going on in some ways. That is, I believe that Western countries can have alternative option. Most technology did not come from China and 5G. Most of the technology came from actually northern countries like Sweden, Finland, USA. So it is possible, I think, by pulling together that one can have alternative technologies to create standard that can be able to support 5G. What happened is though, Huawei was really good at supporting, servicing, and providing the backward and forward and cost-effective technologies. So they won based on being better vendor, better supplier. So the West has technology, but they need to mobilize better. They need to be competitive, and they need to have a more aggressive vision of where they want to be. And this is where I think big difference is. Huawei has a vision, want to be the biggest in the world, and they are investing. And I have been visiting Huawei for many years. So every time I go, you see 30-story building coming up. That investment really paid off. So I think that we have to think long term. And I think that some business works near term, but long-term business that are infrastructure driven, whether it's a road, whether infrastructure like telecommunications, that requires, I think, multilateral collaboration between government, industry, universities, innovation centers. Cannot do it alone. And Samsung is very much involved in working with the West and the US companies to enable technologies that can provide alternative options. So in that sense, I believe that we must invest, we must work together to create an alternative viable option for everybody. And we're committed to doing that. So I think that times like this, I noticed the digital platform companies like Google, like Facebook has done much better, although their advertising business has come down. But clearly always on channels are doing much better than traditional media companies. And it's tough when you are physically dependent on. So everybody's going through these transitions. Clearly Axel Springer has been going ahead of others. He's been very aggressive going that direction. What is your perspective on on that side?
Well, to kind of cut it short, I think the last 15 years were the decade of the platforms, and the success that they have achieved is remarkable, an entrepreneurial success that is unparalleled. If we are talking about companies like Amazon, like Google, like Facebook. And for the content creator, this was very difficult, because it almost seemed that suddenly the pipes were smart, they had the smarter business model, and the content producers were relatively dumb and had a very stupid business model. I think that is now turning around. The platforms were able, simply because of market power and reach. I mean, Google has in most of the European countries a market share of 95 up to 99%, so it's de facto monopoly. We were speaking about monopolies and competition. And so they could simply say, we take content from content producers, being it music or film or text from publishers or videos, we take it and we monetize it through smart advertising. Zero content creation costs, between 90 and 100% of advertising revenues. And that created a tremendous market power and weakened the content producers. I think the next 15 years will go into the exact opposite direction, and it will be the decade of the content producers. For two reasons, very simple reasons. One, because if there is enough competition of pipes and platforms that need the content, then the likelihood that a model is developing where there is a fair ecosystem and platforms that are using creators' content will have to pay for that, will have to make sure that there is a fair share of monetization. And the second is simply that the customer wants it. And that is perhaps even more important. And fake news, certain developments of data manipulation, political scandals, populism, the rise of autocratic systems based on false information and propaganda, that all shows how important it is to have trustful sources, trustful quality content. And I think this new kind of importance that got also during the current corona crisis, where truthful facts are of existential importance and the source really matters, I think that is going to happen. And then there is a third reason. If these two factors alone do not do it, then the regulator will do it, because the regulator, politicians, political systems, societies will not allow in the long run that there is a totally monopolistic or quasi-monopolistic situation where a company that has 2.5–3 billion customers decides which information is consumed by whom, what is true, what is not true, what is good, what is bad. That cannot maintain, that cannot exist like that forever. So I think there are much more reasons to be optimistic, and clearly we at Axel Springer we want to be the major beneficiary, and we want to become the globally leading digital publisher. We are the European market leader in digital publishing already today, and we have a lot of ideas to grow beyond Europe. US is becoming more and more important. The democratic part of Asia is very, very promising for us. So we see a lot of opportunities.
That's great. You know, I'm really happy that you talked about, and actually you helped us to be together in our joint project in this whole enabling curated digitalization content through Update.
Yeah.
And I know it's something that you thought about it, and I think having one of the largest platform combination with the curated content makes it much more obvious partnership, and I do appreciate that partnership, and I think that partnership really helped us to expand in Europe. Hopefully we can actually expand to globally and show another alternative options to other media channels that are out there in the digital platform through mobile phone reach today. And it's something that I very personally thank you for supporting. And it was really your idea that we just said, okay, you know what, this partnership makes sense. And this is about 4 years ago?
Absolutely, yeah.
By the way, you gave me piece of the wall from Berlin Wall, and that's on my desk.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, it reminded me, It reminded me because my parents, my father came from North Korea originally. So every day I look at it, go, we still have a divided country that that still have a business need to be done.
Yeah, I can imagine that, but I'm glad that you are glad about Update. I truly think that it has incredible potential. Perhaps we have reached today only 5% of the total potential, although we are already the biggest European news app with more than 26 million users and successful in so many countries with very, very positive developments recently. I mean, a company, although it's pretty young, is already profitable since 2018 and growing so incredibly fast. That's all nice, but I truly think it's only the beginning. The real vision for Update is that it is the destination if you want to be reliably informed through text, audio and video on all possible devices in all situations of your life. At the moment, it is pre-installed on Samsung mobile phones. But one day, it can be in every car, it can be in every kitchen, it can be in every living room, it can be everywhere where we are, and it can be as an offering that you can read text, where you can watch videos, but where you can also, while driving a car or sitting in a car or while sitting in a subway, you can listen to things because you have it all available. We have already today more than 5,000 sources of journalistic excellence. It can be much bigger. It can be in all countries, not only in Europe. It should be a global product. So I think the vision and the potential for Update is really big.
Absolutely. You know, I think having this curated content we can trust, content we can work with, content that can stand behind your brand is really important. This is why I think the partnership can work.
Update is the anti-fake news product. That's what it is. It protects you against fake news.
Absolutely right. So I'm really excited about that journey. I think that is something that I believe you're right. We're experimenting here. By the way, that Update kind of partnership, what I'm learning from Berlin is there are a few other examples that we can actually do with Samsung that are similar in different areas. We can partner that we might not be able to innovate within, or we might not be able to reach certain audience by our own. But I believe together we can be able to expand. One more thing on Update is that I want to just say also, Samsung doesn't want to monopolize great content. If it's good content, it should reach to all consumers, because at the end of the day, we do have the largest consumer products out there anyhow, so we'll benefit. But we should not exclude people that are using LG or Huawei phones. It's fine. I think they should also get the benefit of the content. One last question for you, and this is more personal a little bit too, because my company got bought out by KKR and Silver Lake in 2005. If you remember, I mentioned that to you, which not many people have that experience, but I did. And actually turned out to be a very good experience for me, because they bought it when I was running it at 2.6 billion. It turned out to be $100 billion company today. So that turned out to be good for everybody that was involved. How was your experience for you? Because sometimes people don't have this optics, perception of private equity. Now, is it good, bad, ugly? But obviously it's all about individual experience as well.
So far the experience is great. I mean, the logic of it is very simple. A company that used to be a German analog newspaper and magazine publisher and is today now an international digital publisher has shifted completely our focus from being a kind of restructuring case that could only deliver growing EBITDA and higher dividends to its shareholders, but not too much growth. And we have now shifted into much more of a growth company that creates tremendous accelerated growth and value increase with that, but also needs investment for that. And under the current regime of a publicly listed company with shareholders who were used to this kind of EBITDA dividend maximization case, we could not do that. And we thought we have to change that. We have to take the company private, at least for a couple of years, in order to really aggressively invest in growth and accelerate the growth speed and the potential with regard to valuation. We did a process. We invited 7 private equity companies from the very beginning, KKR was the most determined one, the most kind of, we want to do this deal, we believe in your story, and we really believe in growth potential. We then discussed an accelerated growth plan. We precisely allocated certain investments that we thought are necessary. And from the beginning, there was a lot of buy-in from KKR into that strategy. And that's why we decided, okay, KKR is the partner that we choose. Now, shortly after that has happened and the deal was signed, the unexpected happened, the Corona crisis, and with that a big financial crisis appeared. I cannot tell you how happy I am that we did that move. And that we are now in this very privileged situation to have somebody with a famous word of Henry Kravis, who said in our first shareholder meeting, never waste a good crisis. So what you do in a crisis, you invest. Contrarian investments. You buy assets, you invest organically into your businesses that have this potential in order to accelerate growth. And to be able to do that with such a partner and not being a publicly listed company with short-term shareholders who need the next quarter's EBITDA to grow, that's a privilege. So we are very happy, and so far also kind of culturally it goes very well. Yeah. But you should ask me that question in 5 or 7 years again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the long-term perspective. But you know, any transformation, disruption, the change, we say easily, but it's really hard to do for public companies, because I was CEO of 3 public companies, and you know, you are bound by those quarterly earnings. And time like this, when you want to invest in massive digitalization, even though it may incur losses, how do you do that in balance for CEO? It is a brave decision that you made, and it's a hard decision to make. And sometimes you'll only see that outcome several years later, but that's what it requires in a time of change. But thank you for your time.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, as always, really enjoy our conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.